let's go to popcorn cinema. Let's go to Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Uh, I had been anticipating this, just like a lot of fans of this franchise, and it's easy to see that they're just dialing for dollars, so to speak, and that this is just another like dip into the nostalgia bucket. I think it more than justified having another ride. I was anxious to watch it, and it's a 2 hour and a half movie, and I think that has the set pieces that make you really excited to watch the film. I think that the way that they get into it, I mean, we're going back to just the classic Indiana Jones versus Nazis, but you can't go wrong with that. And they've tried Soviets, they've done a Hindu cult and Temple of Doom, but here, this our villain is it's a Nazi, and Indiana Jones has always been the best when he's fighting the Nazis, and so he's picking up the hat again, he's putting it on, and we get to see him take one more ride. He's got his partner, Basil Shaw, and here they are at the beginning, uh, and this is him. He's been captured by the Nazis. The Allies are liberating Europe. It's towards the end of World War II. We see that the Nazis are losing. And first off, we had some tremendous visual effects work here from Industrial Light and Magic. And this de aging looks like way better than Irishman. This looks way better than the stuff that was tried on Luke Skywalker for Mandalorian. It looks better than a lot of the de-aging work so far, uh, and Harrison Ford pulls it off. And then we're there, and we get to introduced to the artifact that we're going to be chasing. He's going to be going after this dial, Archimedes dial. There's a time element to it, which is supposed to be about Indiana Jones himself, and he's running out of time, and also he has this attachment to history and reveling in this past, and maybe that's sort of a reflection on us, so like the nostalgia of this, of us reveling in this past. Anyways, he goes on to he's got his goddaughter who he in 1969 comes to find him, goddaughter of his partner Basil Shaw, who was obsessed with this dial. And this is the catalyst for the movie. This is what sets us off. This is why, as he's retiring, he gets pulled into one more adventure, and we get to go on it. And then you have the sweeping John Williams music that is playing around you, and it's the chase sequences. You get these set pieces that are a lot like Raiders of the Lost Ark, and in that, every movie, when you think of like the classic trilogy, when you think of Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and Raiders of Lost Ark, you think of the energy of the movie and how it's so kinetic, and you're going from one action sequence to the next. And in this film, that's what we're doing as this villain here, played by Mads Mikkelsen, who's Jurgen. He's a rocket scientist. He's a Nazi, and he's been hired to help with the space program for NASA. He also has some connection to a CIA group, which we don't really quite clarify exactly what they're doing. Are they a rogue operation? Are they really part of the CIA that is helping these Nazi rocket scientists? But all of this generates the impetus for going on this search for the dial. It's a race. It's like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, particularly. We need to beat the Nazis into getting the dial before they have control of it, because who wants to let the Nazis have that kind of power once again? And so it's good. Send them over, and we get to travel. There are very tasteful cameos in it. Those characters that are legacy. We really only follow the entire film with Indiana Jones but the other cameos were whether it's Marion or whether it's Sala, those people who show up, played by John Rhys Davies, and then Karen, she's there, and they are there for just minimal scenes. They don't necessarily take on big roles like they did in the older movies, and so the characters, I think that's handled well. The nostalgia isn't too overdone, and we bring in some new characters. We have the character in Antonio Banderas, and Mads Mikkelsen is very good. I mean, just look at him. He looks like a Nazi. To me, I think of the actors in classic films like Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, who just had that aura to them and appearance that made them so good at being villains in films. And this is what Mads Mikkelsen, I think, is able to do. And again, as he goes through this, we get the scene. We start to bring in the lore of the dial, the Archimedes dial. They're in search for it, and I'm doing an entirely spoiler-free discussion of this movie, but I just want to say that I liked it, and I really hope people give themselves the freedom, if they want to go in and see it, and not feel like it needs to be anything that special in order for you to enjoy it. This reason I made sure I put this in the show is because there's just a whole lot of trashing out there on these shows that talk about movies. And if you go in and you enjoy this movie, I hope you give yourself the permission to enjoy it and don't let somebody talk you out of it. If there's something about it, when that John Williams score comes on and you hear that playing, or you see Harrison Ford put on that hat, if that takes you back and you feel good for 2 hours and a half that you spent the money to get up and go to that theater and take some time out of your life to escape, I hope that you sit with that feeling and don't let anybody take that from you because you read something about this production, or you saw that it's not making enough money at the box office. Who cares? Who cares whether a movie flops at the box office or not? Ultimately, the production is what matters. The production is the most important. What happens on the screen with the actors, the design, the camera work, the story, and the scenes, the moments of levity, the laughter that you gain, the amusement that you get. And if it's fun, you don't need anyone else to tell you that you didn't have fun. And I had fun. And so I'm just here to say that that was good. And you know, it's over. I don't think they'll necessarily make any more. And in fact, I learned for the first time that this was the fifth film in a contract that goes back to 1979 with Paramount. And back then, when George Lucas and Steven Spielberg went to Paramount, they got a contract for 5 films, and they made the 3. And then after the 90s, the just didn't come together to make the film. It took quite a long time to make the Kingdom of Crystal Skull, and that didn't go over so well. And it's a very weird and bizarre uh, way that it concludes. And as time progressed, were they going to make that 5th movie? Harrison Ford once said that he thought it might be 20 more years before they made another movie, because they made the movie. Kingdom of Crystal Skull was coming out about 20 years after work on The Last Crusade. Well, if it's going to take 20 more years, obviously he's not going to be Indiana Jones again. There will be no 5th film. But they got it in, and they brought James Mangold, and he handled this well. And it's about Indiana Jones. There's no passing of the torch. It's not about any other characters. It's about the conclusion of the story with Harrison Ford, and I thought it worked. All right.